Okay, welcome everybody to part 3 of our Strange Realities preview. Strange Realities Conference 2021 is coming up in a little more than 2 weeks, and we are very excited, and we are previewing every speaker that we have for the conference is going to be with us over the next few couple of weeks that we are going to be doing this. So expect to see us live on places on Facebook and also on YouTube as well. So I want to introduce everybody. First of all, we have Heather Moser joining us.
Hi.
Hey, Heather. And Amy Petulla is here as well.
Hello.
And Kiki Dombrowski.
Hi. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too. So what we're going to do is we are going to talk about what y'all are going to be presenting at the conference. And Kiki was at our conference last year at the virtual conference. And you will actually be in Nashville this year. And you are, as of this moment, getting ready to head out the door to go to Egypt soon. So we at the other end of that, you will be, after you're done touring the Great Pyramids, you'll be at SIR Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel really happy that I'm leaving tomorrow. I had a long month, and I will be in Cairo at about 9-ish Eastern time on Thursday, hopefully. If I get through. Apparently, like all the COVID testing stuff is kind of weird now, like traveling. But we've been tested and vaccinated, but it's still a little wonky. But I'll be there for the next 2 weeks. I get back on the 13th of October, and then literally I'm gonna hop on another plane, and I'll still be buzzing by the time I get to Strange Realities.
Bring some of that fresh pyramid power back with you.
I will.
That's right.
I will. Yeah. One of the final things we're doing is a meditation inside the King's Chamber at the Great Pyramid. So I'll come back with all those good vibes.
That'll be awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Not quite as long a flight to Nashville as to Cairo, so I think you'll be okay as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, so, thank goodness.
What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the presentations, and I guess we'll start with you, Kiki. What are you going to be talking about at Strange Realities 2021?
Golly, that's such a good question, and I wish I had a really, really clear answer for you. But as we're talking, my presentation has been evolving, which is beautiful. I am going to be doing a presentation on tarot, specifically modern esoteric themed tarot. So the Rider-Waite-Smith is my focal point, but I will talk a little bit about Thoth and maybe even the Nepal deck. And I will be talking about the symbol of the gate and how it can be an access point to liminality, both in tarot readings for tarot readers, but also for people who just, need to conjure that liminal energy and that sort of otherworldly vibe in their life. Yeah, that's what I got for you.
Sounds great.
Cool.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be talking about tarot because it's like my number one love. So yeah, it's really interesting. When I started doing the research for this, I was like, I just want to talk about specific cards, and then all of a sudden there's this thing called gate cards. It's a theory by a tarot author called Rachel Pollack, and she believes that there are certain cards that kind of create an actual gate. And so I talk about those cards in the presentation, but then I kind of go off and share my own opinions on other cards that might be symbolic gates, not necessarily just like a garden gate that opens up, but access points to something mystical.
Cool.
I hope so.
Are you going to be doing any tarot reading at the conference?
I mean, I don't know. Do you want a reading?
I mean, I'm
I think
always
that-
up for a tarot reading.
I think the conference needs a reading.
I mean, yeah, I
Read
probably
the
have
room.
cards near me. I'll bring my cards for sure. I really wasn't planning on it, but I mean, I could teach people tarot 101, divination 101, read tarot, talk about gates and tarot, whatever. And if you guys want readings, like totally. Do you want me to pull a card for the conference?
Yeah, sure. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Let's see what we get. I'm leaning down because I'm grabbing my cards. Yay. This is fun. And it's funny too. I haven't opened up my cards for a few days now. Ooh, one just fell out. Those are the jumper cards. Whenever you get those cards that like fly out, you're like, okay, that must be the answer. And we got the Ace of Pentacles. So
Uh-oh.
that to me is a really positive card. That's a really, healthy energy. So I think that this event is going to be very successful. And I also think too that it's going to be an opportunistic event for both the presenters and for the two of you. And hopefully this will be a good money card as well. And this is actually one of the gate cards that I talk about in the presentation. And if you look here, I'm going to hold it really close. See, look at, there's a little gate in a garden, and in the background there's mountains. So
Well, that is
one other way to
just
look
excellent.
at this, and one other way to look at this too is I would say that the event will be really beneficial for people who come, because what's going to happen is they're going to take all the information they know and they're going to be led into new worlds and probably led down new rabbit holes by the things that by the information they receive from the presenters. So good all
Okay.
around. That's a good card to fly out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It just like
Couldn't
flew out
have
of the
planned it
deck.
better.
I know. That's so good. It's so much better than getting like, oh, the towers. You're like,
or
oh.
the death card, right?
Well, the death card wouldn't be bad necessarily. It would just be a lot of transition and transformation for people. I don't know if that's what they're coming to strange realities for. That sort of shamanic shifting. I don't know.
I think so. That would be great too. But the Ace of Pentacles works very well.
Why not? Yeah, it's good all around. Good. It's a healthy card. It's a card of abundance. It's a card of opportunity. And I love that it is one of the gateway cards. It's somebody leaving the safety of the garden and stepping out towards the mountains of knowledge, maybe even the mountains where the hermit resides. So people are going to get that wisdom they need that weekend. So whoever is watching, get your ticket and come join us and receive the wisdom.
That's right. Yeah. Get your tickets, everybody. Tickets are available online, $30, and in person for $70 if you still want to brave it and come out to Nashville. So we are really pushing those online tickets. So you heard it here. So hopefully this is a self-fulfilling prophecy / tarot reading from Kiki Dombrowski.
May I ask quickly, Heather and Amy, are you going to be there in person?
I will not. It's I own Chattanooga Ghost Tours. It is a super busy weekend for me, so I'll be there virtually.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you're having a super busy weekend. Chattanooga is the coolest.
We think so.
Yeah, I really like it there. Awesome. Heather, are you going to be there?
No, I'm going to be online as well. Between now, like this moment and that conference, I'm going to be in a couple different states traveling for small town monster stuff. So it's just going to be a lot all at once.
Yeah, so we should talk about that, Heather, and talk about anybody that doesn't know who you are. That tell them what you do for small town monsters, and let's talk about your presentation.
Yeah, so I am a researcher for small town monsters, and I guess for a production coordinator starting tomorrow when we get to Colorado. Just looking into the history and the folklore of things, finding witnesses for them to interview. I'm the host of On the Trail of Hauntings, which is on YouTube. And I got a show coming out next year that's going to be called The Lore You Know, where I interview different folklorists and such. But my presentation is going to be going back to well, I'm also a classics professor, so going back to those roots a little bit and discussing moral panics, and specifically the first, what I would argue is the first one written that we have, like actually in historical text, the first moral panic, which was in 186 BCE. It was the persecution of the Bacchic cult by the Roman government, and then extrapolating the criteria that something must have to be categorized as a moral panic from the Bacchic cult persecution onto the European witch trials of the 14th through the 17th centuries. And then through, like, by the end of that, as we're talking about the different categories that have to be met, then I think it kind of opens your eyes to seeing when things are happening in present day society, whether that is a moral panic that's set into motion, and kind of being aware of that, because it's a panic. So just kind of calm yourself when those kind of things come out and don't get swept up in it, because it can be bad and it can get deadly if taken too far. So yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about.
And we see that again and again through history.
Yeah, exactly.
So would the Satanic Panic of like the
Yep.
early 80s have qualify for that?
Yes, it absolutely would have. It did. It was a moral panic for sure. So
that overlaps a little with some of what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were going to be well. You do like you said, you're the main researcher for the Small Town Monsters.
Yeah.
Seth Breedlove's, I guess I call it outfit, but it's a production company, which is really awesome. And I should add too that Heather was featured in one of his latest films. He's beginning to come out with films about as rapidly as Nick Redford comes out with books. So one of his latest films he came out with was the Bell Witch, the one about the Bell Witch, which featured Pat Fitzhugh, who's actually here in Nashville. And that was probably one of the best, I think, documentaries about the Bell Witch. You guys really went through it, and I think you really did some great research on that. We were hoping you would come to Nashville so we could go to the cave.
The cave isn't open,
It's not open anymore?
It's not open this year. It was shut down last year because of COVID, of course, and then they didn't reopen it this year either. So I don't know if they're going to open it again or open it next year or not, but it's not open.
Well, after the conference, I'm going to take Banal up to Tim Banal. I'm going to take him up to Adams. So
nice.
What are some things that we should check out there?
Well, you should go to the town hall, which is the old Bell School. It's town hall / Motz's restaurant / I think the last time I was there was a beautician inside. They have their play there, which that also got canceled this year for the Bell Witch. But that school, there's a replica cabin with pieces from an original cabin, not the one from the one from the story, but that's all right behind the school. Bellwood Cemetery has some relatives buried there of the Bell family. If you go to town hall at the old Bell School, which is about the main thing in center of town, find out if Tim Henson is in there, because there's a museum inside, and if Tim Henson is there, he'll probably help you out. And maybe he might take you around, or at least direct you to other places that normally you wouldn't be able to find. So he's super awesome. But yeah, he runs the museum in there.
There's also the marker too. There's a grave marker there, right? But it's not actually where they're buried. I think they're buried a little bit further down. But there's an obelisk or something that's there.
Yeah, that's it. That's at Bellwood Cemetery. That's just down the road. Where they're actually buried, which the original headstone has been stolen a long time ago, but that's on private property and would require having the right person with you to get there.
Well, Tim Banal can probably talk his way in.
Yeah, if anybody can, he's okay, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
that I like that topic. I'm very pleasantly surprised. I didn't know what you were gonna talk about, but I think that's awesome. I've actually never heard of the Bacchic. I've heard of the Dionysian cult, but I've never actually heard of that moral panic in ancient Rome. So that's I think that's something that ties into Kiki's tarot reading that people are going to be enlightened by things they've never heard about. So
yeah, I'm excited to share it. It's not something that people talk about too much, but it's covered in Libby. Thousands of people were either murdered or imprisoned during this panic. So
yeah,
Wow.
the Dionysian cult was pretty serious. I mean, is it true? I'm sorry, I'm off on a tangent now, but is it true that they would actually tear people apart when they got so like crazy, or is that kind of like propaganda?
I mean, that's something that was said. I don't know. For these, they were supposed to be secret cults, so I don't know how much we would have actually like known and it been out there. But yeah, that was something that they said, is that they would work themselves into a frenzy and just be completely ecstatic and rip things apart or people apart. But I'm not sure how much of that was true, so much as something that later was used against them when it came to the moral panic.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know, because it's so much of just like, I mean, I can make a analogy to something like the Knights Templar, right? And there's so much of that like all those confessions that were made under torture and all that,
Right.
that you can't really buy. It's hard to buy into because you don't know how true any of that stuff really is.
Mm-hmm.
When you get in the arena of mass hysteria, then things can just get way out of hand and crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. Which I think that'll lead us a little bit, because Amy, we had you on the show back in January. I think you were the second guest we had on this year. And we talked about the Corpsewood murders. And
Right.
I think that's going to be, I think you said that's going to be part of your presentation.
It is. You know, of course, I own Chattanooga Ghost Tours, and then I wrote the Corpsewood Manor Murders in North Georgia, as well as Haunted Chattanooga and the Ghostly Tales of Chattanooga. So I'm going to be talking about all those things. Corpsewood is probably the one I get asked to talk about the most. So, you know, that may take up, you know, a little more of the time, because it's, you know, it's a fascinating case. You know, I tell people it's the most bizarre true crime you'll ever hear. Anything weird you can think of, from the Church of Satan to a hand-built castle in the middle of the National Forest to LSD to strange creatures, all in there, all true. So yes, I do expect to be talking about that. So actually, my book, I have a whole chapter about the Satanic Panic. So that's why I was asking you about that, Heather.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, around here, one of the victims was a member of the Church of Satan, and so the case immediately got dubbed the devil worshiper case in rural North Georgia, where it happened. Of course, those are two entirely different things, but you know, once people get something in their head, and then, you know, as I said, especially back in the early 80s when this happened, when you had the whole Satanic Panic and everybody coming up with all kinds of wild accusations or whatever, things just tend to really get out of hand. So I can talk about that a little bit, but it really has a lot of strange, bizarre elements in it. I've got, let me find this right quick, photo. Can I share? Can I do a screen share real quick, or
yeah, if you'd like to, that's
okay.
fine.
So one of the things that the case is famous for, one of the bizarre things that happened was that one of the victims, Dr. Scudder, had done a painting, let's see, 2 years before his death. It was a self-portrait. I'm trying to do this sharing screen, and I'm not sure if it's, oh, here, let me do this. All right, let me put it on the right screen. There you go. 2 years before his death. Is it showing up on the screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be. There we go.
All right. Well, anyway, you can see he's gagged with 5 bullet holes in his head. Well, that's how his body was found, and the murderers never saw or heard anything about the case. It's just one of like dozens of really bizarre things about this case. So, you know, I practiced law for 20 years. This is my retirement job. It's much more fun. But here we go. I first heard about the case when I was practicing law. It actually made international news back then. And then when I started the ghost tour, I started hearing about it from an entirely different angle. So it's a fun one to talk about either way.
Cool.
Yeah, it is, and I learned a lot from your book. I met you completely by just like serendipitous chance too. It was funny. So that was it's an incredibly interesting story, and you've got some interesting theories about it too, which with that goes into Howard Finster and all that as well. So.
Right. Yeah, I tried to write about those in the book, but the publisher made me take all that out.
Yeah, and it was probably something, and you talked about it on the episode that we did with you, and you can go back and listen to that because it's really interesting, and it's a really interesting theory. What are you going to be? That's going to be part of the presentation. What else are you going to be presenting about?
I'm going to be talking about the Ghost of Chattanooga, of course.
Perfect.
And I'm going to be talking a little bit about ghost photography for whatever reason, and I don't claim to know why. We get a lot of people get a lot of ghost pictures on our tour, and I'm not just talking about orbs. I'm talking about faces and figures and things like that. So I'm going to share some of those, and also talk about a few of the things people think are paranormal pictures that really aren't, because we don't want to tell people, yes, everything that you think is a ghost picture really is, because we lose credibility that way. We want to make sure people have some idea, because I probably get people send me at least 10 ghost pictures a week, and the vast majority of them I look at and I just don't see anything. But I want to do a little bit of explaining about that as well. And you and I, when we talked earlier today, had talked. I don't know that I'm going to be talking about this during the conference, but I did bring something specifically for Heather. I put in my pictures today. You want me to go ahead and show that, Adam?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right, let me go through this again.
Is this what we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the Sugar Flat Road creature
head.
head.
Yeah.
We our shop has always been sort of a curiosity shop. And when we had first opened the shop back in 2013, we actually had the Sugar Flat Road creature head in the shop for some months there. And Heather, I know that you were sort of on the lookout for it for a while. And for those of you who've never heard of it, it's actually a famous Bigfoot head. The legend is that it was run over by a fellow who was out on a date in the late 80s. And he decided to cut its head off with a shovel and put it on his mantle, which until his wife had something to say about that. And that too could have something to do with the fact he was on a date, not with her. But so after that, he gave it to the fellow who owned Cuz's Antiques. They kept it in the shop there from, like I said, late 80s until they went out of business in 2013. We leased it for a little while then. I know after we gave it back for a while, it was on display at a state park there in Lebanon, Tennessee. But the really cool thing was when I'd first gotten it, it was around the same time that one of the Bigfoot groups was super excited because they had gotten some hair samples that and they didn't say where the hair samples came from, but supposedly Bigfoot hair samples that they were excited about the results and they were just about to share them. I don't know if it was the from this one, but this one did shed a lot of hair, so that may have had something to do with it. It was a really cool thing to have in the shop for a while, and before it left, I did have a couple of holograms made of it, so we still have those in display in the shop, even though we don't have the head in there anymore.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely how many people can say that you have a Bigfoot head in your business?
So was it in the, because it used to be, we were talking about this earlier, but it used to be in Lebanon, just down the road from here, for like in an antique shop. And
right, because
was that before
Yeah, that was before I had it. They had it from
Okay.
the Cousins had it from the late 80s until they went out of business in 2013. And I had actually driven up just to see the head. And there's this big sign on the door that says closed, but the head was in the window, and they were trying to sell their stock and stuff. So they had a sign in the window that had their phone number on it. So I just called him up and said, hey, you know, I'm interested in your Bigfoot head. I know that's not really the kind of stock you were talking about selling, but so we made some arrangements for me to lease it with an option to buy for a while.
Lease with option to buy. Okay.
Well, we didn't have as much interest in it as I thought that we would. Like I said, I drove an hour and a half to see the thing. So I couldn't really afford to buy it, you know, without getting the return on it that way. But if someone's interested in buying it, I can probably put you in touch with
maybe Tim Banal.
I know. I bet Tim will want to grab that creepy head.
Just to ask, has anybody ever done any like research on it or tried like take the hair samples or
X-rays,
scientific stuff with it, or has it just always been this kind of odd curio?
Well, like I said, I know that you know the Bigfoot scientific community had, some of them were excited because they just had some hair samples that had been analyzed, and I don't think they would have been so excited if they'd come back negative. But you know, beyond that, no, I don't know. It's fairly delicate. The skin sort of feels like, I don't know, sort of velvety right now, and it does shed, and I think that they're probably are fairly concerned about just preserving it. So to my knowledge, there's not been any testing of it. But that's a good question to ask.
Well,
Have you thought about buying it?
Well, like I said, I did before, but it was too expensive for the very little interest that we had in it for me to be able to afford it. So.
Do you feel like going back now, though? Are you like, maybe I'll give it a second thought?
No, it was pretty expensive. But it was cool to, you know, like I said, it was really cool to have it while we did.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Heather, I got to ask you, since you're part of Small Town Monsters, what's your thoughts? Do you think that's a real Bigfoot head? An albino Bigfoot?
An albino Bigfoot? Right. I don't know. I mean, it looks cool. I don't know. I would want it in my shop too, as far as that goes.
I don't know if you saw the little sign that was next to it. It was written by the guy who ran it over. It says, "Is this an alien?" You know, why in the world someone would think it was an alien rather than a Bigfoot kind of baffles me. But you know, the Yetis are supposedly white, so I figure, well, maybe they can have some in North America that are white as well.
Yeah, maybe he's coming down for the winter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking
migrating.
It looks more like a Yeti than a Bigfoot. Yeah.
He was on his way to Florida.
He's a snowbird.
So you're basically going to talk about what you do with the Chattanooga Ghost Tours and the spirit photography, and Amy has some really cool pictures. She showed me some stuff earlier today.
I've got some right here if you want me to put those up for a little teaser for your audience, or if you'd rather
wait. Just one is fine. I mean, that's totally fine.
Thanks for sharing these.
Yeah.
All right, let me
see.
Let me find.
I want to say too that I got to do the tour back in June, at the end of June. I remember when it was now, and it's a really great tour. You just take a little circle around Chattanooga. I think I did the Murder and Mayhem tour.
Murder and Mayhem tour. Yes, yeah. I think you did.
That's the one I did. So you've got like a couple of different tours, different types that you do.
Mm-hmm. Now, this photo is from our ghost hunt. Besides our tour, right now because of COVID, I have less guides, so we're only running our best tour and our best ghost hunt. The hunts are more like the investigations that you see on TV with all the equipment. And the one we're running goes through UTC's campus and down to Citizen Cemetery. For decades before we ever started the tour, the rumor was that Danforth Chapel inside Patton Chapel was haunted by a suicide bride ghost who'd gotten stood up at the altar. And we've gotten photos of her before, but I think this is the best ghost photo I've ever seen. I think this is amazing. I think she actually looks kind of like the bride from All That Jazz, you know, with the big headdress thing on. And what really convinced me about this, because sometimes we get people that are sending us photos where they've stuck in Slimer, or there's one iPhone app that puts fake ghost into your photos. But the thing is, everybody in the world who used that iPhone app to try to send us some fake photos always used this girl in a little calico dress. And I would always ask them, "Oh, did you take this photo, or did a friend take it?" And they'd say, "Oh yeah, I took it." And I'd say, "Well, this actually looks exactly like the little girl in this iPhone app." And then they change their story. It's like, "Oh yeah, my friend took it and sent it to me." But this girl, I looked on her Facebook page, on some public posts that she had on her Facebook page, because she didn't know I was looking at it. And she was like not trying to say this is a ghost at all. She was like, when she contacted us, she said, "I'm sure this isn't anything, but I just thought it was cool looking." And on her Facebook page, she was saying, "It's just hard for me to believe that I got anything. So I'm going to go back there and I'm going to try to take some more pictures just to try to disprove it." And that's not the kind of attitude of someone who's faking. So we were super excited about this photo.
There's actually a lot, as I'm sure you're aware, there's actually a lot of stories about UTC.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some theater students telling me about someone being in the Fine Arts Building,
Mm-hmm.
which you would know what I'm talking about. And they were practicing for something, and they saw somebody like sitting it was completely empty, and they saw
Mm-hmm.
somebody sitting in there.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they asked them who they were. They didn't get a response, and they went and turned the lights on, and there was nobody there. So that's that was one creepy story that I heard. And I actually used to work at the bookstore there when I was in college. And one time I was just like, I would sit for a couple hours at night. You'd sit there for people to come, for the students to come and buy different stuff. The rest of the bookstore was closed off. And one night I'm just sitting there, nothing's really going on, and I see something just go right past in my peripheral vision. And I could have sworn I even went back to the back of the bookstore and was looking around, see if anybody was there. That was kind of freaky.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Well, I think any college campus is like that, though.
The ghost that I just showed you the picture of, her name is Anna, and we know that because on our hunts we use an ovilus, and she tells us that all the time. But she's actually kind of a hoot. She's one of my favorite ghosts. As you might expect from a ghost who got stood up at the altar, she will only talk to women. She has more than once, when we've had a bachelorette party along on the tour, tried to talk them out of getting married. She asks for coffee a lot. She asks for coffee a lot, and there's a smell of coffee around a lot of times when she's present. So, Anna's one of my faves.
Well, this has been excellent. I really appreciate the three of you doing this. Let me, for real quick, because I have it here when everybody is going to be speaking. Kiki, you are on Saturday and for everybody that's out there, this is Central Time, United States, because we do have some international people watching this. 2 to 3 o'clock is when Kiki is going to be speaking. And Heather, actually, you open us up on Saturday the 16th from 9:15 to 10:15 in the morning. And that's good because that's actually an hour later for you. So
yeah,
if you're on Eastern time, and so you open us up with that, and then Amy, you are 12:30 to 1:30 Central Time on Sunday the 17th.
Right.
So that's when you guys can tune in and you can hear and see their wonderful presentations. But if you miss it, the good thing about us streaming live and doing this on the private Facebook group is you can go back and watch these presentations anytime. So we will start with you, Kiki. Tell everybody where they can find your books. You actually have new editions of one of your books out that you sent to me, and where people can find you.
Oh, I hope you liked it.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you for sending it to me.
Welcome. A Curious Future is a book on divination, and you could get it at any large retailer. So you could go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever and find a copy. And I encourage you to check it out if you're curious about divination and just want to learn about different types of divination. If you just want like a general way to reach out to me, just kikidombrowski.com. But I'm not very active on social media recently. Maybe I will be when I'm in Egypt. So if you want to see like pictures of my vacation for the next couple of weeks, you can find me on Twitter, KikiD333.
Perfect. And Amy?
Anyone interested in the ghost tour can go to ChattanoogaGhostTours.com, and we have several pages on there that give you information about that. Our Ghostly Encounters button is our blog page, and it tells about some of the things that have happened on the tour and on the ghost hunt before. There's one story on there that I don't repeat because every time I do something bad happens, but it talks about what I put in the shop 2.5 days before half the building fell down. As far as my books, I have, like I said, Corpsewood Manor Murders in North Georgia, Haunted Chattanooga, and then a children's version of that, the Ghostly Tales of Chattanooga. And as Kiki said, you can find them on any online retailer. You can get them on Google Play, iTunes, local bookshops around here. I was really excited when I moved about a year ago, and I went to the local grocery store and they had my book sitting there. So yeah, and of course we sell it at the ghost tour as well for 20% off. So that's where you can find all of that.
Yeah, I can attest to that because I did see them several different places, and my dad just had a copy. He didn't even tell me he had one. And Heather, where can people find you?
Oh man. Well, I don't have a book yet, but my goal is to be like Amy there, and when I walk into a store someday, see one of my books. That would be so cool. I have a piece actually in the Feminine Macabre Volume 1, which just came out earlier this year, and that article is about cursed objects, particularly and letters that accompany them, particularly from the Bell Witch Cave. So I've written stuff on that and been in some journals, but no books yet. But if you want to find me just personally on Instagram, you can find me at Pagan Historian. I'm on Facebook, just my regular name. But go to smalltownmonsters.com or go to YouTube and look at Small Town Monsters. You'll find me on Paranormal Unexplained, on the Trail of Hauntings, behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, I mean, you said the Bell Witch, I'm in that, and on the Trail of UFOs, Dark Sky, I'm in a couple of them, Mothman Legacy. So yeah, Small Town Monsters, follow them and you'll find me.
Are you still doing your podcast?
Yeah, actually, Lady Anne has been doing most of the work on that lately, because a lot of stuff picked up for Small Town Monsters. So I haven't been involved with that as much, but yes, the Caravan of Lore, the Caravan Library of Lore as well, with Lady Anne, and I am a co-host on there. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And all three, Amy and Heather and Kiki will be speaking, in case you're just now tuning in, at our Strange Realities Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, and online October 15th through the 17th. And we are happy to have them to be a part of it. Remember, tickets are still available for in-person. That is $70. But we are really pushing the $30 online ticket where you can just sit at home and watch at your leisure. So thank you so much. And we will be back about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll have Michael Hughes, Brent Rains, and Christopher Ernst joining us. All right. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good to see you all.
Bye. Good to see you as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.